Bim, guess what? It's 8 o'clock. It's Saturday. It's time for What a Week That Was. And this week, excitingly, we've got quite a lot of news. More than we've had recently, to be fair. Obviously, none of it's great. A lot of it is tragic. But yeah, that is the week that it was. Or is. Or will be. Or could have been. Or will never be. No one will know. But anyway, let's get things started by looking at the news as told in the UK on Tuesday. Hi JT, hi Rachel as well, hope you're all good. Hello Annie. Long time sir, yeah okay, didn't know what day it was. Haha, yeah it's Saturday, glad to catch you too Annie. You do get the odd reference when I'm driving, to be fair. I won't say they were complimentary, but they are references. That's another thing you can do. If you join us live, you can join in the chat. You don't only get a mention, you can put your point of view across as well. And just see what is going on in the world through my eyes and my opinions on said things. Some of it's good. Cheers, I'm off the detox myself. First pint. All right, I didn't actually do a detox, to be honest. Anyway, first up was the rather sombre interview that was given by the mother and wife of two of the British people who sadly lost their lives in the I keep saying submarine, but it's not a submarine, it's more of a submersible incident that occurred. She just basically said that she was due to go on it, but her son wanted to go on it instead, and he wanted to get the world record for doing the Rubik's Cube, the furthest underwater, which is a pretty cool thing to be fair, but sadly it wasn't to be. The leader of the Wagner group promises to move to Belarus in a deal done with the Kremlin, with the Belarus leader as well. However, he's since vanished and no one knows where he is. I expect him to fall out of a hotel window anytime soon. What have I put there? I don't know, someone's cost what? What? I have no idea. There was a crisis in the NHS 999 telephone system on Sunday for a couple of hours. It was restored fairly quickly, but you couldn't make any 999 calls, which is 911 if you're in America. And I don't know what it is in Australia, it might be 111. But either way, if you need to, if someone's having a heart attack or there's been an accident or something like that, you need to get an ambulance or a police or someone to you. You couldn't do for a couple of hours. To be fair, sadly, at the moment, even if you do get through, it's going to take hours and hours and hours for someone to turn up because everything is so underfunded. And Greece said that they were no longer trying to recover bodies or any part of the wreckage of the tragic fishing boat that was sunk near the Greek coast last weekend. Hi Kim, what are you looking a bit perturbed for? A perturbed smiley. Shocking really, 999 should always be available. Yeah. But I mean, systems do go down. People had to ring 111, which to be fair is a decent backup, I suppose. Anyway, that was Sunday, because, well, Sunday ended, and we moved on to Monday. Monday saw more news. Where's it gone? I've lost my thing. Oh, there he is. Apparently, the leader of the Wagner group, according to President Vladimir Putin, had not tried to overrun the Russian government, and he says the ex-Wagner leader is now heading to Belarus, and Putin thanks the national support for defeating them. But Putin doesn't look like Putin in that picture, which is a bit worrying. Meanwhile, if you're of a certain age, Stephen Lawrence was one of the first noted racially murders that happened 30 years ago, and many people were questioned. Some were ended up in court, and a couple got convicted. But apparently, one person evaded justice and can never be tried. What's he called? Matthew White. He was a witness, but it turns out he was probably more and more involved. He died in 2021, aged 50 though, so will never ever face trial. As if there isn't protocols in place for that happening. You're on about the N999, aren't you? You're right, there is. But like I say, people just use 111, which it isn't the same, but it's better than having nothing. You never know what it was. It could have been a hacking from China or Russia or something like that that caused it, which would probably override any other whatchamacallit thing. Whatchamacallit thing, you know, the whatchamacallit thing. My brain's not working today, I'm just tired. The whatchamacallit thing, yeah, that'll do. Nicola Bulley, the tragic woman who died at the beginning of the year, but her body wasn't found for a considerable length of time, died of drowning. No foul play was suspected. Blame China and Russia. Yeah, of course, that's what we do. It's the new COVID. Hi Smiley Mac, hope you're good. Cineworld are filing for administration in the UK. If you've got shares in the Cineworld chain, you have to sell them quick because basically now they are worthless. Sadly, no one would buy them because everyone knew they were going to be worthless. Why have I spent 24 hours on hold? The devil Russia's hacked it. Yes, exactly. Cineworld is struggling due to lack of audiences, as are many cinemas, including the Odeon, who have weirdly started taking up advertising on the radio. Not the films they're showing, but the fact they do popcorn and other things, and comfy seats and have nice sounds and all that kind of thing. It's just really, really strange. So obviously cinemas are struggling, but Wigan is still ploughing on, as is Crewe by the looks of things, at building a brand new cinema, because that's what the people want, said no one ever. Don't bother with the cinema, let's have a nice square and let's make it pretty for people. Anyway, Tuesday, the NHS, more crisis for the NHS, because now the senior doctors, that's the consultants, the people who are on over 100 grand a year, are now complaining that they're not earning enough money, so they want to go on strike as well, the 20th and 21st of July. Meanwhile, the junior doctors are going on strike from the 13th to 18th of July, and the RCN who wanted to go on strike can't go on strike because not enough of their members voted to go on strike. So basically, the NHS is completely fused up. Burnley's just built a brand new massive cinema as well. I don't know, why do people even still go? They don't, that's the problem. JT's gone, he wasn't in long. I think he's gone to work or something, I don't know. I don't know. 2 missiles hit a city and a shopping centre, at least 2 dead. Yeah, once again, Putin is destroying civilian infrastructure, which is illegal, and etc, etc, etc. Meanwhile, he's doing his best impression of a midget in this picture, where he spoke and thanked the army who saved the motherland from a civil war. Truth is more a deal. The truth is it's more of a deal with Wagner Group. That the war was averted. The army didn't actually do anything. The Wagner Group didn't actually do anything. Putin didn't actually do anything. They just come to this deal. Obviously, someone's got something on everyone in Russia, so that's what they did. Meanwhile, the coroner confirms that Nicola Bulley died after plunging into the water. It was an accident, and there was no intention of suicide. And lots of people came up with some really weird ideas of what was going on. Obviously, because it took a long while for the body to be found, and come up with this wild speculation. And yeah, thankfully, it was just, I say thankfully, it was just an accident though, no foul play involved. There was no drugs or alcohol in the system. It's just tragedy that occurs, and sadly they do quite a lot. Hi, Silence. She can't read Silence, unfortunately, so she won't see you back. Hello, Alan Barton. It's Alan. Hope you're good. Thames Water. They're on the brink of collapse. £14 billion in debt. It's interesting that a water company that's got a monopoly on water can actually end up in a situation where it's going to go bust. They've been paying all their people who own the shares dividends, etc., i.e. lots and lots of money, whilst borrowing money, and now they're in crisis. And all the water boards in the country are demanding £10 billion off the public so that they can stop pumping raw sewage into our waterways, seas, lakes, etc. And as I've said many times, and no doubt will say many times more, they were nationalised when those people bought them, regardless of whether they bought them initially when they were nationalised or when they bought them, acquired them since they were originally nationalised off someone else. They knew what they were buying. They are not idiots. They were buying a Victorian infrastructure which was designed for roughly a quarter of the population that's currently in Britain. There's been some improvements, but not enough. But they've been paying their shareholders. So they've been paying their shareholders millions and millions of pounds over the last God knows how long in profits and all that kind of stuff. Then why didn't they invest in the infrastructure rather than want us to bail them out, either in debt or to fix out the leaks of sewage, to then earn more interest in the future, because we're not going to get that money back. And I say no, just stop paying the water boards and get the government to buy back the water boards. And this is how we do it. It's very straightforward. Whoever bought the water boards in the northwest, it's United Utilities. You can only buy water if United Utilities up here. You can't buy it off anyone else, so they've got the monopoly of it. If they bought it for, I don't know, £1 billion. I don't think they did, but let's say they bought it for £1 billion, the company that runs United Utilities. However, over the decades they've had it, they've made £750 million profit. Again, numbers just plucked out of nowhere. This doesn't mean anything. We should only be able to buy it back for £250 million because they've already made £750 million profit. They paid £1 billion for it, so we get it for £250 million, and we then put the money into it to improve it, and i.e. nationalise it. If they actually have made £1.5 billion in profit and they only paid £1 billion for it, again these numbers are completely plucked out of nowhere, then they've made more money than what they paid for it. Ergo, we get it back for free. They've neglected it, they've not looked after it, they've not kept it maintained. So why the hell should we bail them out and then they earn more profit from it? It's in a mess, we know it's in a mess, but we get it back into government control and get it sorted. So all the profits that are made go into fixing the problems that are there. Anyway, the ineptitude and corruption of what? Thatcher is to blame. Was it Thatcher? Yeah, it probably was Thatcher, to be fair. There are some things that have worked for privatisation, but the water definitely hasn't, because you can't get your water from anywhere else. I mean, could I say, right, I want my water from Thames Water Authority? I'm not saying that because it's the only one I can think of off the top of my head. No doubt there's a Yorkshire Water Authority. No, you can't. You can only go for the one that you've got in your area. And if they're taking millions and millions of pounds of profit, each company, then are not investing and then expecting us to bail them out, then why the hell should we pay them anything? It's an absolute joke. I am fuming. Look. See, told you. If you listen to this on the podcast, that won't mean anything to you, but I really prove that I'm really, really angry. Surprisingly, and very swiftly as well, some of the wreckage from the Titan submersible, which was the submarine that imploded last week with 5 people on board whilst visiting the wreck of the Titanic has been brought up, and what could possibly be human remains have also been found. Now the issue we've got with the human remains is, with an implosion, everything gets crushed. It's a bit like a black hole, everything gets crushed into nothingness. And then you've got the pressure of the water and the speed of the water coming into it as well. So that if they find anything at all, it's going to be, well, a surprise of human remains. The actual unit itself, the machine, is utterly destroyed. And the questions have still got to be asked as to how and why someone was allowed to take paying passengers on a machine that wasn't verified to be used. It's just horrible, really, really horrible. Back in Ukraine, at least 3 people, no, 11 dead, sorry, 3 children in a missile attack on a pizza establishment. Now, the pizza establishment in question was at its busiest time when it was hit directly by a missile. Again, another war crime. Absolute joke that he's getting away with it. I think it was just Moscow, I'll be honest. A 17-year-old has been shot and killed by the police in France. Again, the reasons why are irrelevant. The fact of the matter is, a 17-year-old unarmed young man was shot basically in cold blood by the police in France. More of that very soon indeed. Madonna, yes, that's what she looks like nowadays, has been in intensive care after getting a bacterial infection. She's now thankfully home, but the tour she was going to do to celebrate 40 years of music has been postponed for at least 12 months, possibly longer. The Muppets that are just stop oil, I mean, they're idiots. These people are absolute idiots. They're all posh what's who just think that they've got a right to do anything they want. They decided to stop the second Ashes test because obviously the amount of oil and petrol being used in that is disgraceful. I mean, these people should simply be put, I don't know, maybe submersible and sent to look at the Titanic. It's absolutely ridiculous what these people are being allowed to get away with, and I don't think we should stand for it. And people who drag them off, and you know, when they're blocking the roads and everything, fair play to them. That's how you should deal with these people. It's not just in Britain; they're in Australia as well, and various other countries around the world. But I like to see them go to China, and I like to see them go to Russia and actually do these protests, because you would never see them again, and that'd be a blessing for everyone. It was the cricketer. It was one of the. Oh, we'll come to that when we get to the Australian news, because they're very proud of what happened there. You're not telling me this day and age he doesn't know where these missiles are going. Why don't they do it in a rugby game or in a boxing ring? Cricket, I mean, come on. Oh, it gets worse. It gets worse than cricket, trust me. Shoot them. That's probably a little bit strong, but I know where you're coming from. Definitely. These people, I mean, as I've said before, I'm pretty sure that these poor little rich kids, their family's money and their family's wealth has come from not necessarily petrol, but certainly industry, which uses a lot of fuel, and possibly, if you go further back, slavery, etc. But you won't see them deciding not to live in Daddy's mansion, will you? Oh no. What they'll do is they'll go back to Daddy's mansion. Daddy will pay for a good lawyer to get them out of prison, and then they'll go back and do it all again. I mean, these people think they're idiots. No, these people think they're heroes. The rest of the planet thinks they're idiots. You can't just stop oil. You have to have replacements there. We're working on getting the replacements. And I've said before, and I'll say it again, it doesn't really matter what the UK does at all. If the UK ceased to exist completely, and every person in the UK ceased to exist, and no one could come back to the UK to repopulate it, so it just stopped happening and nothing came from it, it wouldn't affect the perceived global warming that's going on. So it's an absolute waste of time. You need to go to the places that are causing the problem, which is your Chinas, your Russias, and Indias and places like that. And America as well, for that matter. You don't really see them in America, do you? Interesting that. You probably know they get shot, probably by the public. Anyway, we've got lots of writing Johnny Burst. Oh, hi, Luke Williams. They can sit on the crease tomorrow. Could help. Yeah, that's true. The lady in front of the 15-ton truck at London Pro. Coming to that in a bit. If I had one in front of me, I'd play dumb. They better move because it's foot down, 120 all the way. No joke, good job. I'm in Burnley and not London. Yes, exactly. But they do come out and they do block other motorways, things like that, which is ridiculous because all they do then is they have the cars parked up on the motorway. They can't go anywhere, pumping out fuel. Whereas if they weren't there, the cars would continue their journey, which would be quicker, and all the fuel that they waste while they're being held up by these nutters would not be burnt unless the car was travelling later on somewhere else. You know, it's insanity. Anyway, the riots, are we on Thursday now? Yep, the riots have spread to other parts of France now, following the shooting of the 17-year-old by the police, and many arrests are being made. More of that very soon as well. Meanwhile, the Court of Appeal says Rwanda is unlawful, i.e. sending illegal immigrants, migrants, whatever you want to call them, to Rwanda is illegal. Now, I must admit, I don't see the point of sending them to Rwanda at all. It just seems ridiculous, seems stupid. What we need to do is send them back to France, because that's where they're coming from, and France is a safe country. So we get them on a boat, and we sail over to France, we drop them off on the coast, and for each one we do that for, we charge France 10,000 euros. So for every person coming over, we send a bill to France for 10,000 euros. We're already giving them millions to try and stop this, and they're not doing. But there's the only way you can stop it. And I kind of agree as well with if you come over to the UK and you are coming over on the boats, you become a criminal and are never allowed to come back to the UK. I kind of agree with that. I think it needs a bit of a tweak, but I think it's something that we need to do to deter people. But at the same time, we need to make sure that there are safe routes for genuine people to come into the UK, which, let's be honest, there aren't that many of. But we do need people to come in, and people should be able to come here if they are being, you know, actually persecuted and actually fearing for their lives or leaving a war-torn place. Like, for example, as the Tories always keep chucking up at us, the Ukrainians and that kind of thing. Meanwhile, where are we going? Oh yeah, Nicola Sturgeon. Oh no, even more important than that. Putin goes on a walkabout and he gets mobbed by people in Russia. And you're like, what? Yeah. Putin now thinks he's a rock star because he's defeated Wagner. So he's going out thinking how great he is because he's defeated Wagner, even though there was no fighting with Wagner. There was a deal done with Wagner. And he's the guy who actually set up Wagner in the first place and put the guy in charge of Wagner, who then fell out with the government, particularly the defence thing, and then decided to come. So he's becoming popular because he's defeated something he's created without actually defeating it. Yeah, I think I've got it. Absolute nonsense. But it's Vladimir Putin. Everything's absolute nonsense with Vladimir Putin, let's be honest. And he's doing selfies and everything. I'm like, what the hell's going on? I'm not even sure that's the real Vladimir Putin. That might be one of his many clones, to be fair. We love him, really. We think he's great. Said no one ever. Oh, hang on. I've lost my screens. My screens have all gone. Hang on. There we go. We're back. Then we do have what I was about to talk about, which is Nicola Sturgeon. Remember her? She used to be the leader of Scotland. She's been questioned by the police for 7 hours and released without charge over possible money issues with the SNP, she was the leader of the party of. All speculation, we don't know what's going to happen. But she gave evidence in the COVID-19 inquiry, basically saying that she kind of listened to what the UK government was doing, but then decided to do her own thing, and whether or not she listened to the advice given to her by the doctors and specialists in that kind of thing. So yeah, Nicola Sturgeon. What a woman. Evening, Peter F. Oh, wrong one again. Having one of them nights where it's not going right. Hope you're good, Peter F. And everyone else for that matter as well. Steve, you're on. Hope you're okay as well. Friday. Now, Friday is always a good day. Well, no, it's not. I'll be honest with you. Friday began with news that 45,000 police are going to go on the streets of France to try and quell the rioting following the murder, and let's not beat about the bush here, of the 17-year-old lad in the car. He was a delivery guy, apparently. He was delivering stuff, and he got stopped by the police. There was a bit of altercation. The car kind of got accelerated. They shot him dead. The police officer himself has been suspended and possibly facing charges. So that could be interesting, but it will run on and on. And the Americans, the French, do like a riot, it has to be said. They are very good at rioting. We do it like once every 10-15 years, but they do it like once every 10 or 15 weeks. The mum and dad were on a march saying that basically the police were murderers. Can't argue with them. And Macron has told parents to keep their children at home because the majority of people being arrested are teenagers. Well, yeah, because they're the ones who've been persecuted by the police all over the world, and they're getting fed up with it. Interesting news with him. Remember him? He's the Prime Minister. He's called Rishi Sunak, or as I like to call him, Rishi Rich. And he's on about cutting the waiting lists for the NHS because the NHS waiting lists are getting longer and longer, and they're not going to get any shorter with the strikes from the junior doctors and now the strikes from the senior doctors as well. So he's come up with this brilliant plan of getting £2.4 billion to get more places for people to actually study to become nurses, doctors, and that kind of thing. Now, whether it's going to work or not is open to interpretation. However, it's not going to work overnight. It takes 4 or 5 years to train up to be a nurse or a doctor. So he's on about doing it on the job, i.e. apprentices. Now, I'm sorry. If I'm having a heart attack or I've been run over by a bus and end up in hospital, I don't want a couple of spotty apprentices with crap tattoos and a shitty pubic beard trying to save my life. Thank you very much. I'd sooner have a proper doctor, and you know, I'll wait until a proper doctor comes along. You've seen Apprentices? Have you seen The Apprentice? I mean, that's the worst idea ever. You go in with a sore throat and they chop your legs off. I mean, it's, yeah, but it's going to be years and years and years before we feel the benefit from it. But at least something's been done, unless of course someone else takes over and decides that they're not doing it. Meanwhile, Jeremy Clarkson was in trouble for breaching editorial code over his comments over Meghan Markle, which is he's basically said what everyone else is saying. But anyway, he's got in trouble for it. Not the first time he's been in trouble for having a go at people. It's what he does. It's his mantra. But anyway, hopefully that's the end of it. And here's something you won't have heard of unless you live in London. Because when I get bored of Northwest news, I watch London news. And this popped up. Now guess where this is? It's 45 metres underground. It's near the River Thames. And it's the new super sewer that they're building. I went to London a few years ago and they were building it then. They were... where was I? Got Big Ben, the bridge, and then walking down the embankments, and they were doing something there. Massive engineering works. Well, this basically is the tunnel that is going to be the super sewer, which, you know, kind of proves the point. Invest, invest, invest. And at the moment it's an art installation, but not many people can go and see it. And it will soon be operational, i.e. next year, and it will be pretty much half full of sewage being taken out of the capital to a processing plant, which hopefully will not spill out sewage into the Thames. The guy who works for the Thames Authority, said that the Thames in about 18 months' time will be the cleanest it's been in hundreds of years, because, well, nothing's going in there that shouldn't be going in there. It's all going to be going down this tunnel. So they're holding this exhibition in there. You have to be loaded in a cage, and you have to book in advance, and there's only a few hundred people who are allowed to go. And it looks interesting. It's certainly an interesting idea. I don't know what. I think it's trying to prove that this is going to make London a greener and more pleasant place. I mean, remember, obviously, in Tudor times, if you were, particularly in the morning, if you were walking down the street, you were probably going to get covered in raw sewage from individual windows as people emptied their chamber pots onto the streets. That's assuming you dodged all the animal waste that was there as well. Yeah, it's a good thing. And they've said as well, once it opens, there'll be no humans going down there, certainly not walking down there, for possibly over 100 years. It's been designed for that long. So yeah, it's a massive, massive enterprise that they've got going on. But that's not the reason why Thames Water are going bust, ironically. Who'd have thought? It's, yeah, no one even knows what that is. Anyway, there's no breaking news this week. Last week we had a new feature, which was breaking news. But we have got Saturday news, which is news that's occurred today. Saturday. 1,300 people have been arrested in France following another night of riots. The funeral took place of the 17-year-old lad who was murdered by the police. That might calm things down, but you never know. It's Saturday night, people are not working tomorrow, so there might be more people going out, but hopefully it will calm down. And then we've got the Just Stop Oil Muppets back again. They decided, as Foxstar said, to sit in front of the Pride Parade in London, which is obviously the LGBT plus community, and stop the parade from occurring. Turns out that every single one of these people is a member of the LGBT plus community, so they're actually stopping something that's celebrating something that they believe in, because they believe in stopping oil more, even though there's a truck right behind them, which if I was that driver I would leave the engine on, chugging away, burning fuel, because you can't get past these idiots, because these idiots are in the way. 7 people were arrested, and like I say, they should just be chucked in prison or something like that. It's just ridiculous. I mean, I have no idea what they're doing this for. If they want to do it properly, then go to somewhere like Stanlow, where an oil refinery, and block the entrance of that to stop the tankers coming out, or something like that. That's the way to protest these kind of things. Pride, horse racing, cricket matches. I mean, they just snooker. It just makes you look like absolute pillocks. Just Stop Oil need to just stop and think, give their heads a wobble, and go back to the rich mummy and daddy, and then cry in the makes me angry. Anyway, on a lighter note, because it's in space, it's weightless. A space telescope has been launched, and it's going to map out the entire solar system and universe. I don't know how, and it's going to find dark matter and dark energy, and hopefully figure out what they are, if we can do anything with them, and why the universe is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, scientists have said for years that our solar system is expanding. It's like a spiral, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger quite quickly, because everything's supersized. And they thought it was going to slow down. Now, why the hell it will suddenly slow down when scientists decide it's going to slow down, when it's been going for billions of years? This is the moment it's going to slow down. It's not. It's actually accelerating. The size of the solar system is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and they say that's dark energy. But they don't know what dark energy is. My dark energy is a Guinness. Yeah, the telescope thing, which to be fair looks like a massive cannon, It's called UCID or LCID or something like that. Whether it does anything or not, I don't know. The DJ was playing tunes all the time, and I think the motor was still on. Good, good. That's what we want. We want them to suffer the way we have to suffer by putting up with them. Right, here we go. We got any news that's breaking? Just see if there's any breaking news. Oh. Nope, nothing new. BV Brexit surely stop Soros running question presenter. Former Broncos defensive lineman, WWE star dead. What else is happening? Lack of sleep can raise dementia risk, but there's an exception for spotty sleepers. What? Let's have a look at that again. Yeah, spotty sleepers. What's spotty sleepers? None of us get the full amount of sleep. And I don't think Margaret Thatcher got dementia, did she? Or did she? I don't know. She only had 4 hours sleep. Nope, that's it. There's no breaking news this week. It's tragic. I know. Which means that's the end of the news for the UK. But don't worry, folks. We've got more news coming. Because, obviously, that can only mean one thing. It's time for the American news. La 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 America. What's going on in America? Let's have a look at America. They're bonkers in America. Sebastian Harris. What a name, Sebastian. It's just one of them names I really don't like. I mean, the lad I'm sure is fine. Nice, nice lad and all that, but Sebastian, who calls the kids Sebastians? Apart from the Vettels, which I'll let them off, because Sebastian Vettel is a cool guy. Sebastian Harris, youngest person ever to explore the Titanic wreck, details how he lost consciousness during the dangerous expedition. The youngest ever to visit the wreckage of the Titanic recalled how he briefly lost consciousness during his historic 2005 journey, and noted the inherently dangerous nature of the trip in the wake of the OceanGate submersible disaster. Yeah, it's hardly surprising, is it, that the pressure is going to be too much for a young lad going down there. It's one of those things that happen. Fury, a trans woman who murdered 3, is sent to a female prison after hate crime. No one really knows what made Dana Rivers, a pioneering transgender activist who was once respected high school teacher, snap and brutally murder a married lesbian couple and their adopted son at their Oakland, California home, but just after midnight on November the 11th, 2016. But last week, 7 years on, Rivers was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole for the killings and sent to a Californian state female prison. Now, this is the kind of worms that we had in Scotland recently as well. It's very difficult to figure out what is the right thing to do, and the only option that's probably fair is to have an area that is specifically for trans people, a bit like we've done with the mentioned about the sports, having trans sports. We do it for other people. Have separate events and things like that. It makes it fair for everyone, and it also means that you're better than your peers if you win. And if you go to prison, then go to a prison with your peers, even if there's only one in America. You brought the law, you're not coming out anytime soon, so you just get sent to that wing or that prison in America, and that's it, done, no messing around. But yeah, it's a tricky one. There's no right answer, there's no wrong answer, it's just tricky. Putin swears mutinous Wagner leaders will be brought to justice in first speech since attempted coup. She won't be on Gen Pop, most likely high security in a segregated area. Yeah, pretty much what I said. But I don't think they should be necessarily, people should be kept segregated on their own. If there are other people, like I say, of their peers, then they should be together, so at least they've got someone, okay, they've committed murders and all that kind of thing, but it doesn't mean leave them isolated for the rest of their lives. That's not right either. Anyway, current Russian President Vladimir Putin, that would be breaking news, wouldn't it? Swore retaliation against the leaders of the Wagner Group rebellion on Monday, his first address to the nation after the attempted coup. So basically he says, right, it's all peaceful and everything, we've all sorted it all out, everything's wonderful, he's going to Belarus, everything's nice, yabba dabba doo. And then the day after he's like, right, I'm going to get him, and he's going to go to prison for a very long time. Florida woman who shot mum of 4 through door won't face murder charges. A Florida woman who fatally shot a mother of 4 after a long-running dispute involving her children will not face murder charges. She insisted... instead she will be hit with a manslaughter and assault raps for killing Ajika Owens earlier this month. After feuding with her and her family for 2 years, Owens' attorneys, along with the lawyers, have demanded the charges be dropped from murder to... But you've got a gun and you've shot someone through the door and you knew who it were and you're having a dispute with them. That is murder in my book. None of this manslaughter nonsense. Chinese spy balloons also spotted over Japan and Taiwan, reports say. Chinese spy balloons have been tracked over Japan and Taiwan after similar aircraft traversed the US earlier this year, according to a new report. Photos have captured apparent Chinese crafts passing over northern Japan and Taiwan's capital Taipei in recent years. So it's not exactly new news. The irony is, apparently a lot of the stuff that's in the Chinese balloons, the spy balloons, are American technology and all that kind of stuff, which baffles me because the Americans are not very good at technology. But it turns out they're not very good at technology, because when the Americans recovered the spy balloon that they shot down earlier this year, and they put out a press release, they basically said that they couldn't actually, it was that rubbish that they wouldn't have actually seen anything or done anything that actually threatened national security. Now, they might have said that for 2 reasons. One is because it was true, and the other one is because they didn't want to panic the people of America or the rest of the world. Either way, it just shows how crap America is as well, but we knew that. Wagner chief is dead man walking after Russian coup attempt, so says a expert. On Monday, Ian Bremmer, president of the geopolitical risk firm Erasure Group, said it is clear that Prigozhin will be executed over his attempted coup, despite public assurances from the Kremlin that Putin pardoned and sent him into exile. Now, no one's heard or seen from him since Monday. There was this weird press thing that he put out, which was audio only, and then that's it. It's just disappeared. Wagner chief in Gervia breaks silence to claim attempted Russian coup was just a protest. So he's probably had a gun. It was only on audio. Probably had a gun to his head, say you only did this as a protest, and we will let you live for another couple of days before you accidentally fall out of a hotel window. Wagner called off Moscow march over Kremlin threats to its families. So now it's saying that the Wagner Group called off its attempted coup in Russia after the Kremlin intelligence services threatened to harm the families of its leaders. The mercenary army led by Commander Yevgeny's prison made a sudden U-turn on Saturday after getting within 120 miles of Moscow, a retreat allegedly courtesy of a deal brokered by Belarus and shocking the US intelligence officials. Putin seemed to, he'll fall out of a window or he'll get some weird poisoning, probably nuclear. We've done that one. Why am I doing that one again? I liked it that much, I thought I'd put it up again. Why not? No, let's do this one instead, shall we? Although you want to notice. Anyway. Rider plunges to their death when roller coaster partially derails at Sweden amusement park. Now, I used to be a fan of roller coasters. I'm not saying I'm not a fan now. I've not been on one for well over a decade, if not 2 decades. But that's just because I've not been to a fun fair, not because I've gone off them or anything. But I always think that the rides that are in a proper amusement park are safer than the ones that tour around. I mean, some of the rides that are coming around the northwest at the minute, when you go past where these fairgrounds are, they've massive things swinging around and all that. It's been on the back of a lorry and it's put up and down all the time. They always worry me, them things. I'm not a big fan of them. But you'd feel safer on a static roller coaster. However, tragically in Sweden, a person plunged to their death and several others fell from atop a roller coaster when it partially careened off its tracks in a terrifying accident inside Sweden's oldest amusement park. Thrill seekers at Grunelund Park watched in horror as the front of the roller coaster train appeared to jump off the tracks before coming to a sudden halt as one car tilted towards the ground. It sounds like something off of Final Destination, I'll be honest with you. Man shot, teen stabbed on New York City subway in bloody hour span. A man was shot in the Queens subway while a teenager was stabbed on a Brooklyn train Saturday night in separate violent robberies that occurred within about an hour of each other. A 36-year-old man was shot and wounded on the southbound A train, and the 17-year-old was stabbed in Brooklyn. Mamma mia, New York City rules crack down on coal and wood-fired pizzerias. They must cut carbon emissions up to 75%. A Big Apple pizza joints could be forced to dish out mounds of dough under a proposed city edict targeting pollutants spewing coal and wood-fired ovens. The Post has learnt that the New York City Department of Environmental Protection has drafted new rules that would order eateries using the decades-old baking methods to slice carbon emissions by up to 75%. Again, there are things that do a lot more damage to the environment than pizza parlours. Soho's Elizabeth Street garden can be turned into affordable housing, a New York court rules. The debate about the future of a small section of city-owned land transformed into a leafy heaven for Little Italy and Soho residents in Manhattan has come to an end. A state appellate court Tuesday that City Hall can move ahead with its plans to build an affordable housing project for seniors on the site. So basically you've got this nice green space in the middle of New York, and now the council have decided that we don't need a green space in New York, we're going to build on it because that's what we can do. A former Penn State professor claims school said English language is white supremacy. A former professor is suing Pennsylvania State University for alleged racial discrimination, claiming the school forced him to teach students that English language embodies white supremacy. Zach DiPiero, who previously taught English at Penn State Abington, claims his direct report and they endorse the view that white supremacy exists in the language itself, and therefore the student should be warned about this. Bearing in mind, it's the most popular language in the world and more people speak it than any other language. Regardless of how it's got to that position, America, just sort yourselves out. It's just like, Arr! Florida man fired at pool cleaner mistaken for intruder, and he was spared charges again. A Florida homeowner fired his AR-15 at a pool cleaner he allegedly mistook for an intruder, but he won't be charged in the shooting since he's protected by the state's stand your ground law. The guy, aged 57, of Dunedin, and his wife Jana were grabbing food from their kitchen around 9 PM on June the 15th when they heard a noise coming from their pool. So he got his gun out and shot the guy, and it was the guy cleaning the pool who was running late because he'd had a leak at another pool. And I don't mean he'd not had a leak in the, you know what I mean. Rafael Jarl says he has moved past hatred for the shooter. This is the young lad who was shot because he went to the wrong door to pick up his kids a few months ago. He's making a recovery, which is good. No picture of him how he is at the minute. That was a picture of him when he was in hospital. That just seemed to keep pumping up every now and then. But the Missouri teen, he was shot twice after ringing the wrong doorbell, says he's past any personal hatred towards the shooter, but believes the man should face the consequences of his actions. I'm just a kid and not larger than life because this happened to me, Jarl, 17, told the interviewee. Good morning, America. I'm just going to keep doing all the stuff that makes me happy and just living my life the best I can and not let this bother me. Which is very mature for a 17-year-old who was shot for no reason other than someone is gun-toting. The ongoing stories of Florida man. A biology professor says he was fired for teaching that sex is determined by chromosomes. A biology professor at Texas Community College has claimed that he was fired for religious preaching after he taught a lesson about how sex is determined by X and Y chromosomes. Not the actual act of sex, the sex that you were born with. Johnson Barkley, who was taught at St. Philip's College in San Antonio for 20 years, claimed he was accused of religious preaching and let go after he discussed the human reproductive system during a lesson last year. I mean, regardless of what the mind state of someone is years later, you cannot deny that when someone is born, they are male or female. And that is, we all know, it's the X or the Y chromosome. X or Y. See what I did there? It's X. Oh, yeah, they didn't work, did it? And this guy's got, I mean, yes, we're going too far the wrong way. Too far the wrong way. Next up, Titanic sub-victim Hamish Harding's pal recalls desperate struggle to get ROV deployed for search. A family friend of Hamish Harding, one of the victims in the Titanic submersible tragedy, has opened up about her desperate behind-the-scenes efforts to get a remotely operated vehicle deployed for a search. Sadly, even if it had been there on site, it wouldn't have made any difference to the outcome. But it could have, settled things a lot quicker for people, particularly the families. NASA locks 4 volunteers into a 3D printed virtual Mars for over a year. 4 volunteers will spend the next 378 days, it's very specific, in a simulation of Mars facing harsh, realistic challenges in tight quarters under NASA's watchful eye in preparation for a real-life mission to the Red Planet. Research scientists Kelly Haston, structural engineer Ross Brockwell, emergency medicine physician Nathan Jones, and US Navy microbiologist Anku Salur were locked into the virtual planet at the Johnson Space Center, and it does seem to make more sense to do this on Earth rather than do it on Mars, because I think that's basically what the film The Martian was about. Not that I watched it because I don't watch films, but yeah, it seems like a good idea. And some will say, well, it kind of proves that they never went to the moon, doesn't it? Because they're doing this now. No, that's BS. I believe they went to the moon, but I do believe that a lot of the stuff that was shot that you saw, the coverage of them on the moon, may not have necessarily been shot at the moon because the technology wasn't good enough to do it. But I do think they went on the moon because people can see stuff on the moon that could only got there if we'd have got to the moon. But anyway, this is Mars. It's a completely different thing to say, get your ass to Mars, get your ass to Mars, get your ass to Mars, get your ass to Mars. Sorry, I had a total recall moment then. But yeah, this is Mars. Get your ass to Mars, get your ass to... Oh, sorry. But yeah, it's a good idea, doing it on Earth. So if anything does go wrong, they can actually rescue them. Or just let them die. I don't know how realistic it's going to be. But hopefully they will save them. But obviously if they're on Mars, you won't be able to do anything. Work begins to clean up a train derailment in Montana's Yellowstone River. Yay, another train derailment. But don't worry, it's not hazardous. Oh, hang on a minute. Work is underway to clean up rail cars carrying hazardous materials that fell into the Yellowstone River in southern Montana after a bridge collapse over the weekend. Basically, Americans' railways are absolutely knackered and rubbish, and they are just tipping trains over left, right and centre. A man with a heart-shaped face tattoo accused of pelting Skittles at restaurant patrons. And you're like, what the hell is this? This is like one of the most surreal things ever. I mean, for a start, that doesn't look like a man, that looks like a 12-year-old boy. Tattoos on the face, looks like marker pen, which we've all done when we're drunk. Just me, okay. But take the paintball. A Minnesota man with a heart-shaped tattoo under his eye was arrested this month for allegedly pelting patrons and servers, waiters, in a restaurant with Skittles. Tristan Stanier, 19, allegedly burst into the business and began throwing Skittles at employees and customers and left incriminating evidence behind. I.e., he probably sucked some of them and that was his DNA on it. But either way, it's a bizarre thing to do. Having said that, Sooner Skittles than bullets. This is America, after all. Richard Branson's $450,000 space tour under fire in wake of Titan sub tragedy. Virgin Galactic's first commercial space flight, expected to launch on Thursday, is drawing comparisons to last week's Titan submersible tragedy. The company is part of billionaire Sir Richard Branson's Virgin Group. Announced this week it will send 3 Italians and a Virgin Galactic flight instructor on the Galactic 1 mission, and it sells tickets for future space tours for about $450,000 when the social media accounts what? It looks about 12. Yeah, it's weird, Alan. It's weird. Anyway, I don't know whether it's actually took off or not. I've not heard anything about it, and you think you would do, but the news has been full of riots and stuff like that, so maybe it's happened and we don't know about it, but this is the only reference I've got of it this week. Or maybe it's been delayed due to adverse weather, or maybe they've seen sense and thought, you know what, it's a bit soon, we'll leave it for a little while yet. All planned trips to Titanic nixed, i.e. cancelled, after deadly sub-disaster, and it will likely be many years before any more. All planned expeditions to the wreck of the Titanic have been cancelled after this month's deadly sub-disaster, and it will likely be years till another human sets eyes on the ghostly site, according to industry groups. Now, I'll be honest with you, most other submarines and submersibles are perfectly safe, as you can be, at that depth. This thing was basically an oil drum with a bit of metal stuck to it, invented by someone who wouldn't really trouble the professor, the doctor, what was he called? Doc Martin? It wasn't Doc Martin, was it? But in Back to the Future. So I don't think there should be a problem with other submersibles going down there, particularly for scientific reasons. But maybe not tourist. I mean, it's a bit sick as well, isn't it, going down looking at a place where, you know, so many people died. Very odd. At least 16 bodies pulled from Chicago waterways since 2022. Not just a coincidence anymore. No poo Sherlock. Now, you remember a while ago we were talking about Chicago, and there was about 3 or 4 female bodies that were pulled from the river, and the police were saying, no, they're not linked in any way. Oh, well, it turns out they might be now. The remains of 10 men and 6 women have been pulled from the Chicago River and Lake Michigan since the beginning of last year, prompting fears of a serial killer terrorising the community. Patterns have been noticed as the bodies have piled up, with 5 men's bodies recovered in the last 6 months. There are too many coincidences, says the former CIA agent. But yeah, Emmett Brown, that's the one. I was right, it was Doc Brown, wasn't it? Yeah, Dr. Emmett Brown. Don't we love Google? It's brilliant, love it. Archaeologist finds ancient Pompeii fresco showing possible pizza ancestor. Now, it's not the whole thing, it's just that little bit underneath the green leaf of the upper picture, and it does look like a pizza. Italian archaeologists digging in Pompeii uncovered a 2,000-year-old fresco featuring what looks remarkably like a modern-day pizza, and some believe it might actually be a direct ancestor of the Italian favourite. The fresco emerged during recent digs at the Rigo 9 section of Pompeii's archaeological park, just down the road from the heart of Naples, where contemporary forms of pizza emerged as a poor man's street food. Yeah, obviously the Romans were there first. I mean, it goes without saying. Why they're surprised about this, I have no idea. I'm pretty sure that if they, well, they can't, can I? I'm going to say they've looked in the contents of the stomach of the people who survived, who were killed there, but they wouldn't do, because they were vaporised, so there'd be nothing to look at. When you see the statues, whatever it is, of the people who died in Pompeii, it's not actually them, it's the void they left in the dust stuff that comes from the lava, from the volcano. Volcanic dust, that's the one, which settled and hardened, and their bodies were inside, and because of the heat their bodies were basically completely destroyed. And then when the diggers came along, the archaeologists in Victorian times and since, when they find a hole, they fill it with plaster, let it set, and then they open it up, and that's what you get. Those are those images that you get. That's how they create them. But yeah, obviously they had pizza in Roman times, because I mean, it's just duh, really. A flesh-eating tranq drug leads to 150 ODs and 9 deaths in opioid-ravaged Florida county. This drug is horrific. It basically rots your flesh when you inject it, as well as obviously killing you and everything else. And people are willingly taking it. It's just horrible. A boy 10 was killed by stray bullets while watching TV in bed. Quote from his family: still had a whole life ahead of him, obviously. A 10-year-old boy was shot and killed while watching TV with his best friend inside his family's Virginia home in what police have called an act of senseless gun violence. Kevon Morgan was struck by stray bullets while sitting on his bed watching his television with his best friend, according to a GoFundMe set up last week by the slain 5th grader's family. You're in your own house, in your own bedroom, and you still get killed by a stray bullet. I mean, there shouldn't be any bullets, never mind stray bullets. America, really, sort your gun laws out immediately. Now this is weird. South Korea passes law that revamps how age is counted. Every person in South Korea is about to get at least 1 year younger after the government passed legislation ending the country's ancient and unusual way of counting age. New legislation kicks in on Wednesday that adopts the more widely held practice of beginning to count a person's age when they are born. Traditionally in South Korea, however, a person is considered 1 year old on the day they are born, and the whole country collectively ages 1 year on New Year's Day. I fell asleep, I'm back. Welcome back. Sign of old age, but don't worry, for South Korea you're going to get a year back, so you'll be a year younger, so you're not likely to fall asleep as quickly. But yeah, when you're born, you're 1. New York City rat complaints plummet by 26% from 2022, ahead of the new garbage rules. The number of rodent sightings across the 5 boroughs continues to plummet as New York City officials unwrap new garbage security measures that will affect thousands of businesses. So far this month, rat complaints were at 311, we're down 26% compared to last June, thanks to recent rules that ban businesses and homeowners from putting out trash before 8 p.m. So basically, they put the rubbish out, but they don't have wheelie bins like we do. They put the rubbish out in bags, and then the rats come along at night and break into the bags and eat the food, and then they just get more and more and more, and blah 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 blah. But now they're not doing, so they're all starving to death, and the city is getting better, which is nice. Top Russian general who knew about the mutiny plot has now gone missing amid rumours of interrogation. I mean, this guy looks like a bundle of laughs, doesn't he? Top Russian military leader thought to have advanced knowledge of the weekend's armed mutiny has reportedly gone missing amid rumours he's being interrogated for possible complicity in rebellion. General Sergei Stavrokin, the ruthless one-time leader of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, was last seen telling the Wagner group of mercenaries to stop their uprising. But yeah, he's vanished as well. Maybe they'll fall out of a window together, holding hands. That'd be nice. Not really. Nice, you know what I mean. Tourist seen defacing Colosseum identified as fitness coach in the UK. Now, I'll be honest with you, this made me really angry. Never been to Rome. I want to go to Pompeii, ironically. It's one of the few places I want to go to, but I don't have a passport and I don't have any time or any money. So it's never going to happen because I'm not getting any younger either. Unless I move to South Korea. Which gets to get a year younger, which gives me an extra year of my life. Oh no, that doesn't really work, does it? You're still going to die at the same time, whenever that is in the future. It's not going to change because you're a year younger. Anyway, a tourist who sparked outrage after he was caught on video carving up the Colosseum in Rome has been identified as a reporter. Identified in a report as a Bulgarian-born fitness instructor who lives in the UK. Dimitrov, 27, allegedly used a key to carve Ivan and Haley, 23 in the nearly 2,000-year-old iconic landmark in the Italian capital. I think genuinely that's a prison sentence for me in an Italian prison, because you can't just do that. It's just mad. As they say, when in Rome, write on the walls. Luke Williams. Yeah. When in Rome, deface things because you're Bulgarian British. Wow. 3 people fatally shot, 1 stabbed to death in bloody start to summer in New York City. 3 people were fatally shot and 1 was stabbed to death in less than 24 hours across the Big Apple, marking a bloody start to summer in the city. The violence began just before 3 p.m. when a 17-year-old was shot in the chest outside some polo grounds, Towers. He was taken to hospital, but sadly died from his injuries. But in America, this is normal. I don't even know why it makes the news anymore. A teen wrestler suffers stroke and undergoes brain surgeries after winning a match. A 14-year-old Oklahoma boy suffered a stroke after winning a wrestling match last week. Luke Champion, which is a perfect name for a wrestler, just won his last match at a wrestling camp in Oklahoma State University when he was stricken. I just commented to his brother that he looked sleepy, and then he laid back, and I'm like, we're going to have to go wake him up. Strokes can happen to anyone at any age. I know someone recently who's had a stroke, and thankfully making a good recovery. But yeah, it's just a horrible thing. But 14-year-old getting a stroke, particularly after wrestling, obviously the physical exertion possibly loosened a blood clot, I don't know. But hopefully he'll make as good a recovery as he can do. You must be some kind of genius to write your own name on the wall. However, will the police find him? Oh, the Italian police will. They're really good. They're keen, the Italian police, definitely. Got some bad news. It's Vladimir Putin. Putin seen on Russian TV being mobbed by adoring supporters in a bizarre public appearance. By adoring, you mean you don't see the guys with the submachine guns in the background. Vladimir Putin made a rare public appearance in Russia on Wednesday, where the typically guarded leader smiled, shook hands and posed for selfies with throngs of his adoring supporters, just days after the weekend botched army mutiny. Yeah, I mean, it's absolute nonsense. And if people believe that that's the real thing, then it's just insane. Ocean Gate still advertising Titanic trips after catastrophic implosion of Titan sub. To be fair, I think that's slightly unfair in the fact that they've got a lot more going on than worrying about updating a website. So to pick on them for that, I think is a mind thing. Adoring, that poor woman looks like she's been forced in front of the camera. And they all were. I imagine there were people with machine guns and stuff in the background, and he would have a bulletproof and stab-proof vest on as well. Get on camera or fall out from a window. Yes. 17-year-old shot dead outside New York City public housing complex in broad daylight. 17-year-old boy was shot and killed in broad daylight outside a public housing complex in Manhattan. The teen was shot once in the chest shortly before 3 p.m. outside the polo grounds. Oh, it's the same one as we had before. It's not a separate one. I was thinking that when I was reading that. It's very familiar. US ill-prepared for global pandemic. Outgoing CDC chief warns. Everyone was ill-prepared for a global pandemic because we'd never had one before in modern times. And it spread quickly because we didn't close the borders quick enough. Again, my argument is PPE is the big thing people moan about. We didn't have enough PPE. Well, if the newspapers had found out that governments around the world were storing vast quantities of PPE with a use-by date on it at the taxpayers' expense, there would have been uproar in 2017 or any time before that. And then the fact that we didn't have enough PPE in 2019 when we needed it is hardly a surprise. But the actual pandemic itself was a surprise. What do you expect people to do? Pull it out of the bumholes? It's not going to happen. So yeah, everyone was ill-prepared. It was a global pandemic, but we should learn lessons from it and maybe have, say, a maximum or 60 days worth of PPE on standby permanently in warehouses or whatever, but we keep going through it. So rather than just have it sat in the warehouse, we get it imported or made in Britain. We put it in a warehouse, but it works its way through the warehouse over time, so it's always fresh and always in date in case there's another PPE thing. H on the move and Devon me. Hi, you're new. Welcome to the channel. We're talking about news, and we're currently in America. We missed all the English news, but we've still got and finally to come, and Australia as well. Don't panic, it's not over yet. 14-year-old in critical condition after falling from New York City train in possible subway surfing accident. I'm sorry, it's not an accident. If people can get on trains and subway surf and they get injured, that is not an accident. An accident is when something happens that you don't expect. People should be shown, in America in particular, in schools, they should be shown the injuries and the bodies of people who've been killed subway surfing. I know it's harsh and all that kind of thing, but we've got to stop these people doing this kind of thing because it's just horrendous. Madeleine McCann's suspect was ID'd after allegedly telling friends the missing 3-year-old didn't even scream. The prime suspect in the 2007 disappearance of 3-year-old Madeleine McCann allegedly made a chilling claim to a friend shortly after the British toddler's vanishing made headlines. She didn't even scream, Christian Brucknecker, 45, a German man named as a suspect of the McCann case just over a year ago. Mobile games taken too far. Yeah, let's move on. Let's pretend that never happened. Let's move on. I've got wind, sorry. Nearly 20 New York City yeshivas failed to provide education requirements, probe shows. Nearly 20 private schools run by the Hasidic Jewish community failed to provide the education required under state law by two students who attended the private religious institutions. A damning and long delayed city investigation. See, it's not just the UK that has damning and long delayed investigations and tongue-tied. It said that 18 of the academics failed to provide students with an adequate education in secular studies like English and mathematics, or as they call it in America, math. I don't know why they call it that, but they do. Russia plans to kill Yevgeny Prigozhin after the aborted military, says a Ukrainian official. Well, I imagine the Ukrainians are trying to kill him as well, because he's the guy who ran the Wagner group, who basically executed people that they caught from their army and also civilians as well. But apparently Russia is plotting to assassinate Wagner group leader Yevgeny Prigozhin after his aborted rebellion last week, the top Ukrainian spy official said. The Russian Federal Security Services has been tasked with assassinating the now exiled leader of the mercenary group, although the plan may not be carried out immediately. Yeah, they'll probably wait until it all dies down a bit, which it probably never will, to be fair. Over 1,000 Dolly Parton. I mean, talk from juxtaposition. I mean, you know, mass murderer, now a wanted man, probably, to 1,000 Dolly Parton impersonators to break a Guinness World Record. More than 1,100 people dressed as Dolly Parton gathered in Ireland to set a Guinness World Record and raise money for a charity. The revellers gathered for the Dolly Day event in Listowel, County Kerry, in an attempt to set a world record for the largest gathering of people wearing a full head-to-toe Dolly Parton costume. Fans and impersonators of the county's country music's queen dressed to the nines in blonde wigs, boobies, and high heels, which didn't really work on a football ground because they just sung in it. It doesn't say whether they actually got the world record or not. Harry and Meghan blamed bad luck for Spotify and Netflix failures, say sources. No. The reason why Netflix and Spotify have kicked off them two from their channels is because people are fed up with them whinging, moaning, whingy, moaning, whingy, moaning. Even Americans are fed up of it as well. It's not bad luck, it's just them not shutting up. Shame they didn't do it in Dollywood. How long were they there for? Get there at 9, leave at 5. Oh, very good, Smiley Mike. I'll give you a round of applause for that one. 14 dies on subway surfing in 2023, despite the city crackdown. More people have already died in subway surfing this year in the last 3 years combined, according to new data obtained by the New York Post. 4 thrill seekers were killed while riding on top of trains so far this year. The most recent case was the 14-year-old Jenvin Fraser, who died on Thursday after trying to surf the northbound 7 train in Queens. Yeah, horrific. Really is horrific. And I think shock tactics need to be given to these teenagers. There's one who was injured earlier on. Sadly, he didn't make it. This is deliberate injury, although I don't think he meant to get injured, but anyway. Firefighter smokes world record for longest, fastest runs while engulfed in flames. There's a world record for running while on fire? He smoked the previous record holder. A French Human Torch set 2 Guinness World Records on fire on Thursday after he ran across the finish line while engulfed in flames. Firefighter Jonathan Vero, 39, was licked by intense flames and deprived of oxygen for the entirety of his 272.25 metre dash around a track in his hometown, Habourdin, a commune 138 miles northwest of Paris. Yeah, you know, if I was going to try and break a world record, it'd be like trying to eat the most donuts without licking my lips, or I don't know, watching TV non-stop for the longest period of time, or something. It wouldn't be completely set myself on fire, wear something where I can't breathe because the fire would get into my body if I breathed in because I'm on fire, and then run around a racetrack. That would not be the top of my priorities. Flaming hell. That was a heated competition. Very good. Maine woman fights off bear that was chasing a dog. She described it as a little unnerving. No poo Sherlock. I saw clips of Cocaine Bear recently. It was on Google Box on Channel 4. And that movie is bonkers. And more than a little bit unnerving. However, a Maine woman squared up to a black bear on Friday and walked away with a minor wound that required stitches. Lynn Kelly, are you ready for this? 64, slugged the bear in the face after it emerged out of the woods that borders her Porter backyard in hot pursuit of her dog. The Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife said the pooch had darted into the trees, frantically barking before it was chased by the bear, which then got a bunch of fives in the face by a 64-year-old woman. I mean, you wouldn't argue with her, would you? Christ almighty. A New York skyscraper to open one of highest basketball courts in the world at 629 feet. Note, one of the highest. Who cares? At least she was the main woman. Those side characters wouldn't have made it. Oh, very good. I see what you did there, Smiley Mac. Main, yeah, leading lady. Yeah, got you. Yep. Hoopsters on the court will be reaching new heights. Brooklyn's tallest skyscraper is set to open a basketball court on the 66th floor next year, which ranks amongst the highest of any such facilities in the world. I'll be honest with you, who cares? It's a basketball court in the sky. It's not in the sky, it's in a building. Who cares? When you're playing basketball, you could be anywhere, any height, doesn't matter. 5-year-old girl shot while sitting inside a car in the Bronx. A 5-year-old girl was shot while sitting in a car in the Bronx on Friday night, police said. The girl was inside the vehicle when a bullet struck her in the back just after 7 p.m. She was taken to Montefiore Hospital in critical condition. No suspects have been identified at this time, according to police sources. Police are canvassing the area for footage of the shooting. Probably just another stray bullet. It happens. Hope the windows are closed. Yes, exactly. Artemis 78. Welcome, by the way. I don't think they would be. NASA Perseverance rover finds a rock the shape of a donut on Mars, which obviously proves that aliens exist. Not. Is someone eating Krispy Kreme on Mars? No. The Mars Perseverance rover has captured an image of a rock on the red planet's surface that looks just like a donut. No, it doesn't. The donut, which it isn't, was first spotted on June the 14th by the SuperCam remote micro image. It doesn't look like a donut. It looks like a rock. That's it. It's not even got holes in it. No, it's not. Go away, Artemis. Although I do like Artemis, I'll be honest with you. Anyway, that's the American news. But don't worry, we've got more news. This time, we're going down under. I'm going to a land down under, where women glow and men thunder. Not many, but a few. Popular baby shark toy recalled in the USA. Not reported in the USA. Weird. Basically, baby shark, baby shark. I don't know how it goes. Baby shark in my hand. No, that's not it, is it? Anyway, it doesn't matter. I don't care. There are serious concerns the Robo Alive shark bath toys can injure children, with 7.5 million recalled in the US after the fin impaled and cut and stabbed children. The fin is circumcising children, basically. A recall of the product in Australia has yet to be issued, so they don't care in Australia. But in Australia, they're hard. They'll just bash that shark in the face like a Maine pensioner would a bear. Then we've got World Cup fever hits Sydney Harbour Bridge. But I've no idea what the World Cup fever is. And I care less. Baby shark do 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 do. Baby shark do 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 do. Yeah, it's brilliant. One dead. Roller coaster derailment, at least 1 dead and 9 injured. That was the thing that we looked at in the American news. I got it off Australian news first. Duchess of York reveals breast cancer diagnosis. Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, has undergone surgery after being diagnosed with breast cancer following a routine mammogram. Spokesman for the Duchess has revealed that the surgery was successful and Sarah's prognosis is good, which is why you should always go for your scans, says the guy who's not been to a doctor's since he was 11. Yeah, no. Woman's footy. Oh, is that what it is? Okay then. Thank you, Foxstar. Australia to send military help to Ukraine. I thought they already had. And here we go. I was talking about the Just Stop Oil anchor. England wicketkeeper by day, security guard by night. Johnny Bairstow taking matters into his own hands at the Ashes. I thought it was an Australian because they were going on about it. But yeah, I'd have basically kicked him in the goolies, because you can bowl a goolie, can't you? So can you kick him in the goolies as well? It's a cricket term. If you're into cricket, that's hilarious, probably. I don't know. There's a vehicle there. I don't see it. Oh, I see what you did there. Yeah. You'd only know because of the wheel, wouldn't you? It's amazing. It's amazing. It's called camouflage. Camouflage. It's fantastic. Camouflage. Ooh, camouflage. Magnitude 4.6 earthquake rocks Victoria overnight. A magnitude 4.6. This is many earthquakes happening in Australia at the minute. I struck parts of Victoria overnight with reports it was felt across Melbourne. Geoscience Australia. I nearly read that as Genocide Australia. Geoscience Australia says it struck at Rawstone, east of Melbourne, at a depth of 3 kilometres, which is very shallow for a earthquake. There are currently no reports of damage and no threat of a tsunami. Why are they there? What oil do you use playing cricket? Exactly. Like I've said before, if you want to protest about the use of oil, etc., then go to petrol stations, go to oil refineries, go to docks where ships dock with oil, go to drilling places, cricket matches, pride, snooker matches, horse racing. I mean, these guys are absolute plebs. I can use that word because it's a TV show on Channel 4. They really are absolute loons, and I have no sympathy. I think they should be treated more harshly than people who commit serious crimes, because generally they are committing serious crimes, and they need to be removed from society. I don't mean, someone suggested euthanasia. I don't mean that kind of thing, but I mean just taken out of society, just put somewhere. Maybe get in touch with NASA, see if we can get them in one of them Mars simulation things. But instead of doing it for 378 days, let's do it for 378 years. Yeah, I like that idea. I'm going to get in touch with NASA right now. Which brings us to our and finally news stories. So this is the more light-hearted stuff that's gone on in the news. And there has been some light-hearted stuff that's gone on in the news, or stuff that's made me smile or gone, oh, that's cool, or whatever. But anyway, let's see what I've come across this week in the news. Well, just on the internet really, it's not really the news at all. Don't even know I said news. Whoops, wrong one. Let's not go there. Let's go back here and go to that one. That's the one we wanted. Now this is a claim, this isn't amusing actually, but this is a claim that the implosion of the submarine was kept secret by the UK and US as it was classified. Classified naval systems secretly picked up the large acoustic detailing and implosion on June the 18th before the deaths of the 5 passengers on board the Titan submersible were confirmed. Now if it's true, I don't see why it was a big secret, unless it's the fact that they're monitoring. But anyway. Russian Popeye shows off luxury Bali villa after fleeing home country. Kirill Teshurin, 25, also known as the Bazooka Hands. Why is he called Bazooka Hands? It's his arms that are massive, not his hands. Fled from war-torn Russia to Indonesia and Bali 6 months ago. He has now given fans a virtual tour of his luxury villa. I mean, I am speechless at why people want to look like that. It's your own choice, but still. Britain set to roast with record heat waves hotter than last year's 40.3 degrees centigrade. Get in. The Met Office issued multiple thunderstorm warnings as scorching temperatures are predicted for up to 2 weeks in July and could beat last year's blistering 40.3 centigrade temperatures. Bloke to have padlock removed after girlfriend split and she had the key. An unfortunate bloke appears to have broke up with his girlfriend a little too early as he humiliatingly, easy for him to say, had to visit a tattoo shop to remove a padlock on his penis. I mean, I don't know how you get a padlock on a penis, unless you had Prince Albert maybe. But his ex-girlfriend had the key and wouldn't undo it. A woman clashes with council over big werewolf statue she won't remove from her garden. An American woman is willing to go toe-to-toe with the council to ensure that they do not remove her beloved 10-foot tall werewolf statue. She's named Phil and believes it acts as a burglar deterrent. Now, I'll be honest with you, I don't think it acts as a burglar deterrent because it's obviously a statue of a werewolf. It is not a real werewolf. However, I do believe that if it's not phallic in any way, shape or form, there's no reason why that cannot remain in the garden of her house. It's her own property, and what's it got to do with the council? Either Albert or Chastity Cage. Ugh. Ugh. Let's not even go there. I don't even think of... Ugh. Ugh. But no, I think it's perfectly reasonable. We had a thing in Wigan called the Golden Ince Man, and he was much taller than 10 foot and completely naked, and everything was on show, including a nice cluster of lower hair, very neatly designed, and someone complained about it. Everyone else thought it was hilarious and funny and all that kind of thing. Someone's complained about it, and the company had to remove it from their grounds. I mean, it wasn't in a phallic position at all. It was merely a resting position in the general waist area. Um, if it was a statue of a gun, it could stay. That's a very good point, Luke. Maybe put a gun in its hand, or an Uzi 9mm. Right, cute animal alert. Cute animal alert. Whoop, 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 whoop. Cute animal alert. Cute animal alert. Warning, warning. Cute animal alert. Okay, it's a potato. It's a potato that looks like a seal. I mean, they didn't even need to put a seal picture there. It does look like a seal. I mean, there's no ins and outs, no whats, wherefores, whatever. Looks like a seal, and it's a potato. Really cute. Now, regular viewers will know I have the only sport I follow is Formula One, and I have hate is a strong word, but I'll use it in this case. I hate Lewis Hamilton. I know he's British and he's brilliant at driving and all that, but as a human being, don't like him. It just does me head in. He's not done anything to me personally or anyone I know. I just don't like the guy. And he races for Mercedes, so by virtue, I'm not a big fan of Mercedes. Although George Russell's now racing for them as well, and I like George Russell, and I like a lot of the new guys who've come in. I like Lando Norris, I like Max Verstappen, I like Charles Leclerc, I like Sanz. They're all, you know, great guys. What's the Japanese guy who loves food? He's just, what are you going to do with all this money when you retire? Open a restaurant. He's just food mad. Yuki Tsunoda, he's brilliant. I love him as well. I just don't like Lewis Hamilton. But Mercedes have earned themselves considerable brownie points. Morgan was diagnosed with cancer at 2 years old. His parents were due to take him to Silverstone, but the doctors have said time is limited. So Mercedes went to his house with an F1 car, and I think that is brilliant. Sadly, I think young Morgan has since passed away. I mean, it was literally time was limited. But he got a Formula One car. He got a Formula One team going to his house. I mean, that is fantastic, superb, and a lot of effort from the Formula One team in the middle of a season where they're not doing that well. Okay, things have improved recently. To actually go to the trouble, I mean, that is kudos. That is brownie points. That is. I may lessen my. I mean, Lewis Hamilton didn't turn up. Don't get me wrong, but I may lessen Lewis Hamilton to disdain. Do you like electric cars or Lewis more? Actually, Lewis has one of those electric car teams. They're not electric cars, they're off-roads, those big things, but they're electric, and they go around the world on a bolt, which is green, and then they race, and it's the most boring racing in the world. It's even more boring than Formula E, and that's saying something. So Lewis is involved with electric cars. So I can say I hate electric cars more than Lewis, but Lewis is involved with electric cars, which means I hate him a little bit more. Because, yeah, so it's a win-win for me. His brother, on the other hand, is great. Yeah, I love his brother. His brother's brilliant. He races in BTCC touring car. And I mean, considering all the struggles he's had in life, he's doing really well, and he's not using his brother's money. He's going out getting his own sponsors for his car. He's doing everything himself. He's not using his brother as a way of doing it, and I respect Nick Hamilton a lot. I think he's a great guy, and he's a role model to people. You know, it just shows if you've got disabilities, doesn't really matter. If you want to do something and you try hard enough, you can get on and do it. F1 race on this road last night. 2 cars wrote off. Yeah. But yeah, tragic story. But a really nice thing for Mercedes to do. And like I say, kudos, definitely. Right, to lighten the mood a little bit, Himalayan, walking. Genius. The cat on the top picture is a cat that's called the Himalayan cat. But obviously the joke is Himalayan walking. No, Himalayan and Hima walking. Absolute genius. Made me laugh out loud when I saw it. Scientists discover ancient human relatives used to kill and eat each other. I mean, again, I'm not a scientist, but I'm pretty sure that cannibalism has been part of humans' lives like forever. It's not something that surprised me when I read that. I'm like, that's the most pointless thing I've ever read. Woman visits world's biggest McDonald's and then collapses with excitement. Let that sink in a little bit. A McDonald's superfan collapsed with excitement after she took a visit to the world's biggest of the fast food restaurants, and she's now gone viral on TikTok. I would look it up, but I can't be bothered. Men need to stop sending penis pics. They are unwanted and not pretty. Sexpert Jana Hocking hit out at men who send women photos of their penis, as she says they are not pretty, and she claims men often think she wants to have sex with them because of her job. Yeah, because that's how it works, love. Oh, I'm not allowed to say that anymore. Sorry. I'll send a picture to apologise. Oh, I'm not allowed to do that either. No, I must admit, I think anyone's bits, male or female, are not pretty things. So if you're going to send a picture of anything, send a picture of, you know, your upper body, maybe, if you're going to send a picture. And preferably clothed. You wouldn't get me walking around with no top on any time, particularly on the internet or anything like that. That'd be ridiculous. It'd also be disgusting as well. I wouldn't do that. Danny Dyer wants to die a hero by suffocating Putin with a pillowcase on TV. That's not Danny Dyer's body, by the way. You won't believe this, but that picture may have been photoshopped. TV horror bloke Danny Dyer has issued a warning to Russia's war-mad President Vladimir Putin, and has gone into great detail on as to how he would assassinate the despot. Yeah, I can imagine there's more than suffocation going on. Other than the once a week. We don't talk about that. Right, if you're of a nervous disposition, look away now. This is, just to clarify, we are looking at a wasp's nest on a statue. This is a wasp nest on a statue. Okay? That is a wasp's nest on a statue. Okay? Just to clarify, once again, it is a wasp nest on a statue. I thank you. As South Koreans find themselves a year younger due to changes in the way that age is calculated, thousands of 49-year-old men find themselves stuck with a Porsche they don't want yet, i.e. midlife crisis. Thank you. Have I got news for you? One of my favourite TV shows, to be fair. Have I got news for you? I only watch the extended version, though. I don't watch the small version. But yeah, midlife crisis. Someone said to me while I was in my shop, have you had a midlife crisis? I'm like, you stood in it. Yeah, you were 50, now you're 49, which means you're not having a midlife crisis yet. Did they live to 100 in South Korea? Don't mind me, just thinking about the time BBC News interviewed a dog. Bounce the dog was interviewed, and someone commented hilariously, with interviewing for indecently assaulting two schoolboys. Very unfortunate picture. No explanation as to why. Sean is a regular contributor to Twitter regarding Wigan Athletic Football and the trials and tribulations of being a supporter of Wigan Athletic Football Club. But he does come out with some decent stuff every now and then. But the comment that the person put was the dog charged with indecently assaulting 2 schoolboys is brilliant. Let's be honest, dogs sometimes do get a little bit carried away and decently assault anyone. The owner of a white van that thought it would be funny to throw plums at me and my little brother whilst walking past Tesco earlier. I'd just like you to know that I do have your wheel, and until you give me an apology and a reason for such tomfoolery, you won't be getting it back. Me and my brother left both confused and cheesed off. What they've done is they've took the wheel off and just left it like that, which I think is genius. And yeah, it's fair enough, isn't it? You're going to act like an absolute wally, then you're going to get treated like a wally. No, but may lose a lot of money. Which one are we on about? Because we've had quite a few things going on. Artemis. And then we've got the and finally. There was a hilarious picture taken of Rishi Sunak. I kind of hinted at it, to be fair, with Putin. So let's go back to Putin. There he is, and his photograph that he had taken, looking rather small next to some soldiers. Not helped by the fact that the hats have got a massive brim on them that goes about 80 foot up into the air. So yeah, I referenced that earlier. And said, is he doing an impression of Rishi Sunak? And this is the photo of Rishi Rich. This is a genuine photo, it's not photoshopped. This is Rishi Rich. Oh. Daniel Kowalski, who is Parliament's tallest MP at 6'9", posted a photo of himself with the PM, Rishi Sunak. It's hilarious. And someone's written as a comment, Rishi's giving me Will from the In-Betweeners vibe. Now, if you've watched The In-Betweeners, and I was on it after the first episode aired, I'll be honest, thought it was hilarious, didn't like the movies. This is what the guy's talking about. So there's Rishi Rich and the tallest MP and the newest MP in the Houses of Parliament, and this is Will, who was the main character in the In-Betweeners TV show with the sixth form tutor. And they put same energy. It's hilarious, and I love stuff like that. It just makes me laugh out loud and for a very long time because it's funny. And that, ladies and gentlemen, and anyone else in case I offend people, that humans and other species who may be watching this, there you go. I can't say humans because it's got man in it. Oh God. And Hugh is a male name. So to any species watching this, I'd like to thank you for joining in today. It's been great fun. I've had a bit of chat as well, which is always good. Sometimes the chat is a bit quiet, but we've done really well today. Average view is 30 minutes and 16 seconds, which is higher than it has been for a while. We've only had 3 likes, but that doesn't matter. We've had 55 views, and the most views we've had was actually repeatedly 10 at various different times during the course of this, so we appreciate that. So big shout out to the people who've contributed. So JT, NE, welcome back, it's been a while. Kim Braid as well, welcome back, it's been a while. Smiley Mac, welcome back, it's been a while. Angelo Kane, you were late, but I'll let you off. Alan Barton, Fox Star. Getting some stuff coming up, I don't know what that is. It's worrying. Peter F, who was in and out. I'm not saying in and out, chatted and then didn't say anything. Luke Williams. That's Alan again. Fox Star again. Angela again. Yeah, that's it. And Artemis 78 as well. Thank you for your conversation and chat and joining in. It's fun. It's been, yeah, I wasn't really into it at the beginning. I don't know why. Overtired, whatever. I don't know, maybe. But yeah, got into it now, which is great. So I'm an object. I'm offended. Oh, for God's sake. Oh, no. Oh, for any religious deity's preference. Oh, this is so complicated. But yeah, it's been fun. We've discussed lots of things tonight. You've joined in the chat. Electric cars appeared there with their ugly heads. Putin being a plonker. The tragedies of the Titanic. The tragedies of the young lad getting shot in Paris and the ensuing riots. Gun crime in America, as is normal, sadly. And various other bits and pieces as well. So yeah, it's been a good one. And all being well, and Christian... As a Christian object, I'm more offended. Oh, for God's sake. Oh, I've done it again. Jesus Christ. Oh, no. No. It's all going horribly, horribly wrong. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. If indeed you still are. Like I say, a big shout out to everyone who's joined in the chat. Don't forget, if you're watching this and it's after it's live, which more people do, I don't know why. Then feel free to comment in the comments section if you agree, and if you can make the effort to join us on a Saturday and join in the chat live as well, that would be fantastic. So yes, thank you very much indeed for watching, listening, joining in, and we will see you all again another time. Until then, goodbye. No, not that one, it's